go. Give me a thumbs up. I can't see you. You're frozen.
You're great.
Yes? Okay. Okay. Embers, go ahead and hit record. Okay. I got a green light in the chat bar from Embers. Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for coming on our very special team call. I can't see everybody because my internet is so bad tonight, but I can see some names. So I see that Julianne's on, I can see Lindsay's on, I can see that Rochelle is on, and Sandra and Tammy, and our guest speaker, Jenn Ernsberger. I can't see any of your faces, but I will watch this recording back. Jen Embers, aka Jembers, is making a recording for our team for the replay, so I will watch it back and be able to see everybody. Thank you so much for joining, you guys. Thank you for watching the replay, those of you that can't make it live. I'm super excited about our special guest tonight, but first, before I introduce her and we dive in, let me just tell you that the Team Spirit Challenge enrollment started today. You guys, we've been posting about it pretty much daily for the last week. Make sure that you know what's going on and that you've registered. We have a team called Fit Force. Go ahead and register and use Holly Heyerman as the upline and sign up under the team with us, and we've got a private group and we're ready to roll. So make sure you're doing that. Also, our guest speaker call list starts tonight with our guest speaker, and then next week, Emily, who just went to the Bo Eason conference with CJ, she is going to give her Bo Eason takeaways next Monday night, and then the following week, I am going to give my leadership takeaways. That would be my dog with the cat food. So next week, I'm going to do takeaways from leadership. And the following week, Joel Freeman is coming on to talk about core to force. So tonight, we have a very special guest, a very, very, very dear friend of mine, Jenn Ernsberger, formerly known as Jennifer Starling, formerly known as J-Star, and she's friend to many of our team, and she and I go way back, and she has a really, really great coach story, and she's a one-star diamond, and I just want her to take it away. So Embers, if you can mute me and unmute Jenn, I'm going to let her take it away.
All right. Well, thank you, Ellen. It's so exciting to have you or have me on your team call. I'm just so grateful for your friendship, and for those of you that are on this call, Ellen was definitely she was a dear friend of mine from master training, but also when I started to coach, she was the one, when I would drive to work, I would Vox her. And so she knew me at the beginning of me really diving in and going all in. So it's such an honor. So I'm very excited to reshare my story and then give you some hopefully good takeaways from it, because I think there's power in each of our stories. So for me, when I became a coach, so I became a coach in 2009, really a long time ago. I think I had been a fitness instructor for about 3 years. And so I was already teaching classes. I was living that lifestyle. And Beachbody was still pretty new. I remember when Turbo Jam came out, because I'm a Turbo Kick instructor. And I was just like, okay, cool. Like home workouts, right? You like buns of steel. Like that's what I thought home workouts were. I was like, no, it's cool. I go to the gym. Like I do real workouts. Like if you want to do workouts at the home, that's okay. But for me, I go to the gym. And so it wasn't until somehow, some way, I got a bootleg copy of Chalene Extreme. And I was unemployed at the time, but I was teaching classes, and so I had 2 5-pound weights and 1 10-pound weight, and I just made it work. And every time I got my unemployment check, no joke, I would go out to Walmart and like buy the next size up of weights. And like my friends from the gym like saw me starting to transform, so they wanted to do it with me. So I remember a couple of times like lugging my entire like weight set to my friend's house, and we like do the workout and then like go do turbo. And so it just became this thing that, you know how it is. It's like when you start to transform your body, especially for the first time, like seeing muscle and seeing definition, I I couldn't stop sharing about it, right? Like I just couldn't like put on a shirt. It was physically impossible. I was like, I have abs, so I can't wear a shirt anymore. But anyway, so I was actually approached by my upline coach, who is actually another master trainer, and I wasn't a trainer at the time. And so it was one of those things with fitness instructing and coaching where like I knew I wanted it. You know how like when you ask for advice from people and you kind of steer them to give you the advice you want, right? Like that's how I felt about my potential. Like I didn't feel confident enough to just be like, I am going to be a fitness instructor and I am going to be a coach and I am going to be a master trainer. I just needed like one person to just to give me the green light. And so my upline did that for me. And I remember it was right when Shakeology first came out. And so I remember I didn't like talking to people. So I went and researched people's links and bought Shakeology. So I'd already tried Shakeology. And when she said I could be a coach, I was like, game on, let's do this. And I actually bought the showcase pack. Unemployed, I bought the showcase pack, which had like turbo gym and hip hop abs and yoga booty ballet, like stuff we don't even know about anymore. And I was jazzed. I got off to a really great start. As you know or may not know, there were no tools back then. So I literally was like, hey, here's my magic elixir. You should have some too. Here's my link. And I got, a bunch of people from my classes to try Shakeology and buy it. I even got people to be coaches underneath me. But I had no idea what to do. And so, right, like you have no idea what to do. I was just like, okay, I signed like 4 or 5 coaches and then it just went to the wayside because I just didn't know where to take it from there. So from 2009 to 2014 was just a lot of misfires of me being like, yeah, I should really coach. Like I knew I should always do it, but then I for some reason or another, I just wouldn't follow through. And so it wasn't until I ended up training Amy Silverman in Turbo Kick, and then again 2 years later in Pio, where I don't know what it was. I think it was the combination of watching her journey, which is why it's so important for all of us to continue to post on social media, because it wasn't like I was stalking her page, but I just saw her progression. And so all I knew is that Amy was a big deal and she was making a lot of money. And I just remember being like, having this transition in my time where my best friend, who's in the Air Force, was moving away. And she, we took a trip to Southern California. We went and took Shalene's class. I remember staying afterwards because I started with powder blue. So, I became a trainer in like 2010. So, I knew Shalene. But I ended up, talking to her after class, and I think it was the combination of her asking how my business was going, which if any of you, I think if you're on this team call, you're probably working your business, but for anybody that ends up watching this and you've kind of convinced yourself, like, I'm good. Like, it's cool if I make this work or not. Like, I'm happy. I'm good. Like, I have a good job. So that's what I said to Shalene Johnson. I said, no, I'm good. I'm happy being a payroll administrator. I have a real job. And so I remember training Amy and just having all these thoughts. And my biggest thought that I had, and I wrote it down for myself, was I was driving to work one day and I just thought, is this it? Like, is this it? Do I just have to do this thing that I know I love? And I ended up dropping out of college because I didn't know you could take an ACE personal trainer test to be a personal trainer. But I went to school for microelectronics and I was on my way. I had scholarships. I was working in that field, but there was just something in my heart that I knew I loved fitness. Like, I knew that was my gift. And so I was just thinking on this car ride, like, man, am I gonna have to go work for someone else for the next 40 years and only get, maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks, if I'm lucky, of vacation? And I was working for a company where I loved it. Like, I loved my job. I still love them. They're still my work family. But I was that hard of a worker where I never took time off. Like they'd have to drag me out of the office. Like, I'm like, no, I'm good. Like coughing and like, you know, being sick, and they pushed me out of the office just because I wanted them to know how dedicated I was. But I realized that, you know, in that moment where I was like, is this it? Am I going to give my power, my legacy, my potential to someone else? You know what I mean? Like, I just knew I wasn't living to my full potential. So, you know, after talking to Amy and her, you know, me begging to be like, can I just, I'll open up a tax ID, I'll go under you, like, will you mentor me? And she's like, she told me the most amazing thing, and I just think this speaks volumes on her integrity, is that she was like, you stay where you are. Like, you prosper where you're planted. Like, you don't need anything you don't need me to be successful. You don't need anyone else. You already have it within yourself. Because I would tell my stories at my trainings. I just end up bawling and crying. She was like, that right there, that passion and that emotion, that's what you need, and you already have it. So she's like, just use your business activity tracker and go for it. And so I'm a researcher, so I went on YouTube. I just immersed myself, and from April 2014 to like, I think like July 2014, I just went all in. I went to Summit. Like, I was like, whatever. Like, I took off time from work. I just went all in, and I became Diamond in like 3 months after only having one coach. And I was on fire, and I was so excited. But then over these last 2.5 years, I've had this pattern. So in 2014, I became Diamond, and I did that thing where I was like, I'm Diamond. And then you think that's all there is. And so you're like, you take your foot off the gas pedal. And it was the fall time, and this is historically in the history of Jenn, this is the time where I just go, well, you know, it's the fall. I mean, let's just enjoy ourselves. Let's just layer up. Let's not be so aggressive with our health and fitness. And so in 2014, it just went, and I was still running groups. I've always run groups, right? But I was started to do free groups and more of that. And I remember in January of 2015, like, I always do my comebacks in like December. So I had my comeback, Insanity Max 30, You Are a Badass, reading that book for the first time, and just having this drive, right? You know, when you get your second wind and you're like, let's do this. And so I was like, let's do this. I'm going to do this. And I was having phone calls. I was doing so many call to actions. I was like talking to so many people. People would say yes, and then like they'd get in car accidents, or their credit card wouldn't work, or, you know, you just have all these weird things that would happen. And I remember just sitting in the shower one day, and I was getting ready for work, and I just prayed out loud. And I was just like, I just felt at my wit's end. You know, when you feel like you've tried everything, right? You're like, I have tried everything and nothing's working. Maybe this just isn't for me. And I was like, maybe this just isn't for me. I mean, I was making really good money with being a payroll administrator, and she was giving us bonuses, and I just was like buttered up to stay, right? I was totally comfortable. I didn't have that fire where I was like, I need to make a lot of money. This was like, this is my life's purpose, but I'm not doing very good right now. Maybe this just isn't for me. So I prayed in the shower. And I remember asking the universe, God, you know, if this is what I'm supposed to be doing with my life, if I am supposed to be coaching, if I'm supposed to be helping people like this, will you just open the door so freaking wide that I have to run through it? And I remember crying and just like feeling this emotional turn where it was like, either it's going to happen or it's not, and I'm okay with whatever. And that next month was Team Cup. It's right when 21 Day Fix Extreme came out, and it's still my record. I think I hit like Success Club 36 that next month. And it was just like bam, 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 bam. Every phone call I had, every message I sent, people come, you know how it goes, right? Once the momentum comes, then suddenly it's like, because you're focusing on it, then other people started coming to me, and it was my most successful month. So I went, okay, all right, I guess. Okay, I hear you. I guess this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And at that time, it started to manifest itself, this thing I had on my vision board, that me and my husband, but we were boyfriend and girlfriend at the time, I remember it was always our goal to move to Southern California. And I have Facebook posts. My husband had an opportunity possibly for us to move to Southern California. And so it became very real. So this was the time, you know, my business was starting to boom again. LA was becoming more and more real. And I just was like, you know what? Like, let's just do this. Let's do it. Like, let's move to LA. Let's take this risk. You go with your job and I'll just go full time. So 2015 was an exciting first half of the year. I added so many coaches to my team. I went full time, even though I wasn't like making full time money, but you know how it was. It was like half of what I was making in a week at my normal job. So I was like, okay, I could see the potential, the compound effect, right? It's like, it just figures. So we moved to LA. Me and Ellen are in the Pio cover photo shoot. We like, you know, I would do a couple of those CDJs, like things were happening. But because I had moved and I had stripped myself away from my comfortable life, I started to drink. And I started to hang out with my husband's friends, and I started to party, and I thought I was still like moving myself forward, like I was still inviting, but I wasn't like, it was that thing, if you guys went to Summit or if you've seen Shaun T's speech where he had that transparency speech where he was like, it's like you're living in a glass house, right? And if you lived in a glass house, with the things you say out of your mouth, match the things you do in that house. And mine wasn't. Not by a long stretch. Like, I was always kind of a party girl, like on the weekends or like after work, have a couple beers, and then on the weekends we like kind of party every couple months. It never seemed that big of a deal to me. It wasn't. Like, I still was able to do everything. But when you're stripped away and this is all you have, and now suddenly the identity you had is gone, and now I'm supposed to be this happy, successful, full-time Beachbody coach, but like I'm making like $100 freaking a week, I was like freaking out. Like we went back to like me going to the grocery store and being like, okay, well, I only have $20 to spend, and these fostered tall boys are $3 for two. And I think I can get some pasta and maybe a little bit of vegetables, and we'll just call it good. Right? Like, I mean, it was insane. I went back to my old job a couple times to fill in and earn some extra money. I remember my biggest disappointments from that year was I didn't go to Summit. So I had my ticket and everything, but I didn't go to Summit because I wanted to spend the money on other stuff. And then I didn't do the size training for Ellen, even though that ended up being freaking gigantic. It was huge, but I just was like, this feels so like, it feels so gross to say, but it's true. I was more concerned with like having a good time and partying than doing the responsible thing, right? Like, in my mind, it was like, oh, well, you know, like I could see what I could lose, and what I thought I was gaining was temporary pleasure. So I went through this transition, much like 2014, where there was this height of the year, and then it just went down, 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 down. And it was this time last year, you know, I mean, I just felt like I was like my head above water. Like, I mean, my eyeballs the water was all the way up to my eyeballs, just trying to like occasionally like come up for air, and you're just swimming. And I just was like, I remember putting in my resume for payroll jobs. I seriously considered moving back to Washington. Like, I just didn't know what to do. I was just like, I can't. And a lot of the things in my social media at this time last year, I mean, you could just hear it in my motivational stuff. It was like a lot of like, overcome your adversity. Your struggles will end up being your strengths later. I remember having conversations with she's a coach, but she's like, deeper than a best friend and more than a sister. Like, this is what I think of one of my girlfriends, Kelly. And I remember having a walk with her and just being like, just in tears, and her holding my hands and being like, Jen, the things you're going through right now, I hate to say it, but you have to go through this. Like, you have to. I'm sorry you only have like $20 in your bank account, but this is the way it has to be. This is your story. And so it took a little bit of time, but I remember hitting my rock bottom. I mean, like, it wasn't like I was drinking like, to the point where I'm like in a gutter or whatever, but it was enough for me where I remember one night I had drank and then I woke up the next morning and I just said never again. Because the thoughts I had leading up to that sleep was like, I didn't want to wake up. I didn't want to live anymore. And my previous backstory before I found fitness, I was depressed. I had anxiety. I suffered from binge eating. I used to cut myself. Like, I just really, really struggled with my self-belief. And I really believe that's a huge integral part of why I never really went after this business the first 5 years, was because of my belief in myself. And so I just was spiraling out of control is what I felt like. And I woke up in November. It's like a week before Thanksgiving, and I was like, we're done. No more drinking. This isn't an option for me anymore. And so then, like I said, in 2014, I had my come up, and in 2015, I had my come up again. And I, that first, towards the end of the year, so from Thanksgiving to like the new year, I was just like, as long as I go to bed sober, homegirl, you could have the cookies, you could do whatever you need to do, because it's okay. So I remember starting that first of the year, Hammer and Chisel just came out, and I was like, let's do this. Like, I'm like, let's focus on the eating. Let's just go all in with these programs. Because mind you, I had only gone all in with the programs. And when I say programs, not just the workouts and start from finish, but like the nutrition, which has been my arch nemesis. And so I went, I went all in the sense of what I had done before, which was in the beginning. So I did 2 rounds of 21-day fix in April of 2014 all the way to June, and got itty bitty small and felt really good. And so in the beginning of 2015, I was like, Hammer and Chisel, let's do this. And I ended up like through all of this, right? So from being like dirt ass broke, finally breaking $1,000 in 1 week, like getting the Success Club trip, like it just, everything started to go up and up and up. And I was just like, I couldn't even believe it. Like, I would cry daily. I started to meditate. I was just so grateful things were like turning around. And, what else did I do? I was starting to travel more, like things were looking up, right? And my business was going and going and going and going. And something happened again because, sorry, my foot is like dead ass asleep right now. And you know how it is when it wakes up. Anyways, so throughout this journey, I've been really, really diligent about my personal development, reading books and immersing myself in this. And I didn't know it at the time, but looking back in retrospect, I like to self-sabotage. And so I did it to myself earlier this year. I kind of went for it was shorter. So it was like maybe like a month and a half. I self-sabotaged myself. And the thing with self-sabotage is what I've learned is like all of us have an internal thermostat for what we truly believe we deserve. And so with your thermostat, if things get too cold, right? So like things got too cold last year in November, so I had to turn up the dial. But the same thing is if it gets too hot, guess what happens? You got to turn it back down to hit your level of what you think you deserve for your happiness. And so I know I did that. And so I started to, I tried to drink occasionally again. I went in moderation. And I wasn't tracking my food. I just thought, and I was like, these programs don't work. Like nothing's working because I was working out. That never changed. I was always working out. But then right before, so it was in July. It was actually the 21-day fix extreme TV test group. And I knew we were going to go to Summit. And so I got myself back on track again. And I mean, really, really, really went all in. It was the first time I ever did a program and didn't drink any alcohol. Because I did that, you're like, oh, just a weekend cocktail. It's not a big deal. So I went all in, went to Summit. That was amazing. I came back, went to a seminar called Evolving Out Loud, which for me personally, to be honest, has been my biggest breakthrough. And if you haven't gone to a seminar, I know Emily's going to come on here next week and talk about her seminar, but I think that is the game changer, you guys. Like that is the game changer. When you go to something outside of Beachbody, like Beachbody, hurrah, hurrah, like totally worth it. Like you should go to Super Saturday Summit. Like Platinum Edge, all that stuff is really important. But going to something that's not revolved around Beachbody, I think is even more valuable, you know? And so for me, I had this big, gigantic breakthrough. Like, it completely just changed my entire perspective on my life. It's like, to me, it was like leaving the Matrix. Like, you can't go back in. Like, I see things for how they are now. And so for me, that seminar really did, it was $99, but I had bought my ticket, I think, like in March. But to me, even then, it was like, oh, like, ooh, like $100, like, do I really want to do that? And I've always had this hesitation with my money and investing in myself. Like I understand it intellectually, like the return on investment, like every dollar you spend, you get back, X amount for yourself. But like, I don't know about you, but for me, I'm like, this is my money. And like, this is my money. And like, I feel this like sense of pride when I look at my bank account and it has a certain number in it. And so like making it decrease, like I'm like, no, it's my money. So, so now I'm in this, you get to see me now where I'm sharing my story, but yet I'm not in the trend, the self-sabotage trend that I have done in the last 2 years, which is, take my foot off the gas pedal. And so instead of being like, well, it's the fall, I'm in the self-awareness, which self-awareness is the key to everything, right? When you become self-aware, it's the key to everything in your life. And so instead of being like, well, I'm like, no, and I put my foot on the gas pedal. And so I got recommitted. I mean, I kind of slacked off with the country heat because, I was eating way too much food. But now I'm in the ultimate reset. I'm on day 15. And I feel so good. I think we underestimate the power of how good it feels to have discipline. Like, because discipline isn't forever, right? Things eventually become habit if you do it enough. Like, it won't be like, oh, this is willpower. Like, I've got to do this. It's like if you practice discipline just for a little while, and then it becomes a habit. And so completing a program is a discipline at first, right? And like sticking to the nutrition and like posting on your social media, which is surprisingly really hard for me now that I'm like full-time. When I was working full-time and doing this part-time, I had a different kind of schedule and it was easier for me to post. But I would definitely say that my biggest hurdle has been my own drive and my own fight, and just having that self-awareness. I can see things shifting. I can feel like, when like it, you read all these things, you read all these personal development books, and you're like, and you ever wonder, you're like, well, is that ever really going to happen for me? Like, I know that happens for that person and this person, but like, is it going to happen for me? And I'm in that point right now where I'm just like, it's like you're going up and up and up, and you're like, oh my gosh, like, I think this is happening. Like, I think we're doing it. Like, I think the compound effect is really working. And it's the most exciting thing ever. And yes, I have those days where I'm still a lazy person. I'm a procrastinator. I listen to all these things and I'm like, yeah. And then like, I won't do them. But just overcoming that and just always continuing to have that drive and have that fight. And I'm staring at, I think you can see it. I made myself another vision board. Because I think that's so important, because as we evolve and as you start to achieve the things that you put up there and your goals, you need to have a big driving why, things that feel out of your reach, like the 10X rule. That guy's a psycho if you've read that book, but he has really good concepts of just, you can't just dream in your little tiny box. You've got to go bigger. You've got to go, wider. And so anyways, I think that's what I want to say. I hope that made sense. I hope that was a little bit inspiring. And I'm an open book, so if you have any questions, you can let me know, or if you want me to talk about anything else.
Hey, I just got dropped and hopped back onto my phone, but I heard everything up until about 45 seconds ago. You guys asked questions. Oops, hold on. Now I'm on twice. I wanted to say I want you guys to ask questions.
Well, this isn't awkward at all. Ask questions. We all just stare into our cameras.
So I will just comment and say thank you for what you had to say, because I definitely have patterns. So thank you.
Thank you. Yay, thanks, Jen. Thanks, Name Twin. But I think, okay, so if no one has any questions, I like to talk, so I guess I'll just talk for a little bit longer. With the fact of just being resilient, and a lot of the team calls that I do, I feel like I say the same thing over and over and over again, but it's that idea that if you keep hearing the same message and you're like, yeah, you're probably not applying it, right? Action trumps everything, like everything. Like, for example, even today, I mean, you have to like high five yourself when you do things. Like, you make a to-do list and then you like cross things off of them. You gotta like cheerlead yourself and be like, yeah, I did it. I talked to 5 new people today. Like get yourself pumped up, because it's really your physiology, your state, you know, just having these things, like for me, I don't know why I do it, but I dread inviting. I really do. That is like the last thing I want to do. But guess what happens? Maybe you're like me. Once you start inviting, right? Once you start conversations and people are actually talking to you back, right? You're like, oh, why don't I like this? This is good. This is fun. This is great. I'm just talking, right? And it doesn't seem that crazy, but it takes a lot of work to get to that point. And so there are certain things that I know for myself, since I work at home, Lindsay, you know, that I work from home. So I got to get out of this house. Like, even before, just like an hour ago, my husband's home sick because he got food poisoning, because he needs to do the ultimate reset, but whatever. I went to the coffee shop and I did a power hour there. I was like, I had a coach sneak peek with 2 of my coaches, right? First time we're doing this, like all 3 of us. It's not just me. And I was like, oh God, like one of my coaches had already invited 3 people and I kept pushing it off. And I was like, well, you know, like laying down with my husband, like being like, no, I'm being supportive. Really, I am, because I'm laying down with you, even though whatever, like I still need to work, right? So it was like, okay, go to the coffee shop. And like, I was like, because you know how you do it. You're like, I don't have anyone to invite. I haven't been talking to anybody. No one cares. And you start having a self-pity party for yourself. And I was like, you know what? No. So I meditate personally. I meditate. So I set a timer for 20 minutes before I went to the coffee shop, and I just sat in the car with my eyes closed, and I was pretty sure that people walked by and thought I was a psycho sleeping in a car. But even though I felt kind of like, I was like, oh, I'm kind of tired. But I went to the coffee shop and I got an herbal tea, and I was just like, let's do this. Let's make it happen. Sometimes putting that stress on yourself too, because it's starting to get to the end of the month, if you know what I mean. And so you're like, and I'm leaving on a trip on Friday. So I was like I'm at Success Club 4, like, let's make it happen. Like, I put this goal of like signing 10 coaches, and I'm only at 1. And so putting the self-pressure on myself, but then like also celebrating the little successes, right? When someone talks back to you, when you get in the, like, you're in the 5-step process, right? Like, I don't get so attached to if people are going to tell me yes or no. I just get excited because because, oh my God, I got to send him a couple videos. Like, we've gotten to this point where I can send him a couple videos. Like, I get excited. So I think just making the little things a big deal, like giving yourself a gold star or whatever's going to make you excited, right? Like linking those patterns and those habits to excitement and changing your physiology. If you come on here and you're like, ugh, and then you get lost on Facebook for like 30 minutes and then you're like, well, I don't, and then you're like, I've talked to that person, but then I talked to that person, and right, and you're tired. Like, sometimes it's just, you got to channel your inner Tony Robbins, or like, you know, channel your ideal self. The best advice, and the guy I love to pieces, is Josh Coates. Josh Coates is amazing. I went through his Art of Recruiting, and you know, the biggest thing he said was become, do, have. So you have to become that person that has the things on that vision board, right? So if I say I want $10,000 a month, I want to be a 5-star, I want to own a beach house, I want to have braces, which that's such a silly goal. I want to end this year 2-star. I want to have abs year round. I want to travel internationally. I want to buy a BMW. If I want to be that person, right? If I want to have those things, I have to become that person. I have to act as if, and I did this. If any of you are fitness instructors, you know what I mean, where you faked it until you made it. You had to put on that mic and pretend like you're a fitness instructor, right? And so for me, it was like, I have to pretend that I'm, you know, and even for me, it's like, I do have this far off dream that I want to do a TED Talks. I want to be a 15-star. Like, like all these things where you're almost in your own head and you're like cringing because you're like, like I don't think I could do it. But like in your heart of hearts, like when you listen to your soul, it's like, no, you should do it though. Like, that sounds so cool. And so for me, it's just having that attitude of like, I just have to be that person now. I can't wait for the accolades. I can't wait for the paycheck. You know, I took a month off teaching. I quit master training. And I did all these things where it really scared me, but then time and time again, it's like so interesting. This analogy that I heard, and this is what I'll stop with because I could just talk all night, you guys. But the analogy that I heard is that, you know how when you really, really, really want something, like you really want it, it's like when you have a treat, and for those of you that have animals, specifically dogs, and you have a treat, and you're holding the treat, and the dog's like going freaking crazy. My dog, like, she knows a couple of the tricks that I've taught her in the past. So she'll just start doing them, or she'll like sit on her back, or like keep jumping at me, right? Lunging at me. And it isn't until what? Until I'm like, hey, sit. And I make her wait a little bit. And then I'm like, good girl. And I give her the treat, right? Same thing is with you in the universe. Right? Or God, or whatever you believe, right? Or you could believe both, where it's like, this is God, this is the universe, and the thing that you want, you can have it. You already have it. That's the thing. You're already complete right now, as is. Okay? Because if you think that thing on your vision board is going to bring you something extra, like if you don't have it already, then you can't have it. When you want something, it implies you can't have it. So you have to be like, I know I'm going to have those things. And the universe goes, yeah, I know you're going to have those things. So sometimes what we have to do are the things we think that are like totally opposite of what's going to propel us forward, right? We lunge and lunge and lunge, and I want it, and I want it, and I want it. And then sometimes you just have to do those things that scare you, right? You just have to sit. You've got to learn how to have gratitude. You've got to, complete a freaking program. You've got to, you've got to do those things that you know. And this is the thing. If you keep asking everyone else what to do, you know what to do. That's why I meditate, you guys. That's why I sit quietly with myself. Because everything you need to be successful is already within you. And you know the things that feel heavy and that feel light in your life. The heavy things we hang on for dear life, because we know what we'll lose. So that job you hate, those people you're afraid of pissing off, the thing like investing in a seminar, like just taking the damn vacation, like you're just like, ugh. right? You don't want to do it. But once you do it, right? Once you do those things, and if you've done them before where you've done a light thing where it feels good in your body, but your mind's like, you're a psycho, you shouldn't do this. But you do it and you're like, oh, this feels so good. Like, why didn't I do this sooner? And there's a part of me where I'm like, like, you know, for me, like letting go of master training, I was like, but I won't be significant anymore. No one will know who I am. And, or like, you know, getting like stopping teaching for a month, being like, well, you know, what if they fire me from the gym? And, you know, this is my identity. And then just getting handed different things in the course of these last like 3 or 4 months that, you know, because I do those things that I know feel light. Right, paying $600 to go to Tony Robbins and getting a virtual assistant. And although that kind of bombed in my opinion, I'm glad I did it and I will continue to do it. Right, doing Facebook ads, you know, taking vacations, getting a photo shoot. These are things that I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't deserve it. Hiring a freaking house cleaner, someone doing my laundry. I don't deserve it. But like, it feels light, and it feels like my ideal self. And it feels like that's the person I am. So I'm just doing it. So I hope that was helpful.
Oh my gosh. I have like, can you guys hear me or am I echoing?
No, I can hear you.
I have like tears in my eyes. I adore your honesty, and you guys please follow, like really, she's so the real deal in every way. I think you could hear that tonight. There were things that, Jen, that you said tonight that I was like, oh, that's the perfect thing for so-and-so on the team to hear, and that's the perfect thing for me to hear, and that's the perfect thing for so-and-so to hear. And it was so good, and so like, it was so good. And I want to make sure you guys are following her on her social. She's Turbo Jen on Instagram and on Snapchat. And I will tell you something about her too that she didn't say. But I have seen her, I mean, like she's been up in my box before for 12 minutes, if you know what I mean. Like, do you ever get a 12-minute box from someone? And I've seen her literally over the years go through the deepest valleys and mountaintops and valleys and mountaintops, and never does she talk about quitting, pivoting, doing a U-turn, giving up, stopping, never. And in fact, like, she's showing up with her best self daily on social. It's not inauthentic. It's just her best self, even when, you know, like her life has had some really hard spots. And I mean, whose hasn't, right? But I was so inspired. She's part of the reason that I stopped drinking in my house, like on January 3rd of this year. But if she's one of the only, like, do you ever think about people in this business, coaches, and you're like, are they really doing the vital behaviors? Like, if you watch her just consistently doing personal development, like devouring personal development, like totally championing our home workouts, doing her Shakeology, like she just embodies the vital behaviors like almost no coach I've ever seen. So you have to follow her. You will be inspired to role model that behavior. I'm totally inspired by her. I'm so pleased with this team call. We didn't really plan it. We were just like, you want to share your story? Like, I was like, you're so resilient. Why don't you talk about resilience? And it was just perfect. So do you guys have any more questions? I'm sure I love questions. So ask away if you have them. Otherwise, we'll close.
I'm going to take a picture, you guys. Can you smile and act happy? That's what I tell my team too. I'm like, say cheese. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for having me on the call. Ellen, you always know how to make a girl feel special. I definitely will have to fly out to Eugene and hang with you. And Yeah, you have a very amazing team. I have to say, I've watched Ellen too. I've watched Ellen too go from, I mean, she was always successful in my mind, but to see her team at this level and her be elite and those of you become leaders, and it's just incredible to watch. So all I have to say is stay here for the long haul. Like, know what you are doing is going to work eventually. Just change your strategy. Don't ever change your goal. Just change your strategy and you'll get there. Love you. And I meant that to all of you.
Perfect note to end on. Love you too. Okay, love you. You guys have a great night. Jenn Embers, thank you for recording. Shoot me a Google Drive, and you guys have a one. Lindsay, thanks for being on. Tammy, Julianne, Brooke, Adele, Michelle, thank you.